Hi, you guys. It has been a minute. Welcome to today's Clean Talk chat. Good morning, Alta. I'm so excited to see you. You guys, there's just been so much going on. I feel like we really just need to have a coffee chat. It's been crazy. But before we dive into it, I do have a guest that I'm waiting to join me, a very special guest. So she's not here yet, but she is coming. Lisa from The Lisa Show. She's a nationally syndicated podcaster. She's on YouTube. She's everywhere. And I believe she just joined us. So let me get her on here. Everybody say good morning. She's still working on getting their camera and microphone. So we'll give her just a second. While we're waiting, let me go ahead and just run our disclaimer because, as always, we don't want to get in trouble for the things that we're talking about and all that stuff. So let me just run that. It just takes a second. Please remember that we want to be kind. Everything in this live stream and in my videos are 100% my opinions. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a veterinarian. I just am a mom and a wife. And I've struggled with a lifelong battle against mess and dysfunction. And over the last 10 years or so, I really feel like I've stepped into my own space and I'm starting to take control over the chaos and just in general feel better about who I am and the way that my mind works instead of trying to conform to the way that everybody else seems to be able to handle things. I'm now just kind of letting go of that and just really realizing this is my home. These are my family members. And as long as I find something that works for us, that's all that really matters. And so I started this channel when I quit my job and started being a full-time stay-at-home wife and mom, and I just really felt like I was alone. I felt very isolated. How many of you guys have felt that way? When you're at home and you don't have a lot of neighbors and friends surrounding you, you don't have coworkers, you can convince yourself that everybody else in the world is doing something and you've missed the boat. Like you've just kind of struggled with it. So we're going to let Miss Lisa get all of her things going. She's still connecting things. So it'll take just a second for her. Good morning, Lori. Good morning, Sandy. I apologize. It has been such a long time since we got to get on here and chat. So really quickly, let me give you a condensed version of my life. So as you guys know, I have been, full-time stay at home. I've been doing all the things and my husband's been starting his own business and it's been such a struggle. And I know a lot of you guys have been praying for us, and you guys, we're getting some answered prayers. Things are starting to move and it's really exciting and amazing. But during the downturn, how God likes to wait to the very last minute before you see the blessings and the changes and all the things. So in our really darkest season of starting this business, which was January, February, even into March, we had to make some hard decisions to let people go that we were, either hiring full-time or part-time or contract work. And I stepped into a role to help my husband, thinking it was just going to be a couple of hours every single day. Well, just about the time all of that happened, there was some other things going on personally. And I had to step into that role and learn the complete booking system, accounting, all the things in like 3 weeks. So I had to dive headfirst into training on all these different programs and systems and trying to learn how to integrate it all, because the lady that we had was going back to work full time at another company. And you guys know when I want to do something, I deep dive. I don't just dip, right? So my entire world focused on maximizing all of the training that I could with her and being 100% involved in all the little things, so that when she left me and I didn't have that, the net, that I would be able to swim. I would be okay. And so that's where my head has been for the last month, is just letting anything that I could kind of fall to the wayside. And I feel so much guilt and pressure for not being consistent, because I really was so excited this year was going to be the year that we made some major things. But life happens. And I talked to you guys last year when things hit, and you all just told me it's okay. if life gives you these road bumps and you just got to slow down, just slow down. We still want to be friends. We still want to show up. And so that's where I am. Let me know in the chat if you have had a season of chaos or struggle or anything else, because that is really what we want to talk about today, is just as a mom and a wife, finding that confidence that we maybe don't get from outside sources because we maybe don't see the outside sources. And so I have found that as a wife and mom, things have transitioned, they have changed. And yeah, so it's been a little bit harder at times for that to work. So I'm just going to check in. Lisa, it looks like still trying to get everything going. So I'm just going to send her a quick message. All righty. So if it doesn't work out that she's here, that's fine. The really amazing news is that in spite of me not being on camera with you guys, I have still been doing some other projects behind the scenes. So first of all, I was invited to be on Lisa's podcast, which is such a huge thing. And if you don't know Lisa, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in. There we go. So let me share my screen with you guys. All right. So if you just Google the Lisa Show podcast, you're going to find that she is right here. She is just hilarious. She is so funny, but she's actually dealt with so many big life changes. She's been a mom of kids, she's done all of these things. And so she has really done an amazing job of not only just keeping a positive attitude, but kind of being really open about the struggles that get thrown at you. So I believe we've got Lisa with us here. Let's take a look.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, how are
I'm so
you?
sorry for my technical difficulties. I just couldn't figure it out. Anyway, but it let me access it on my phone. So thanks.
No, no problem. That's fine. So, Lisa, I was just telling everybody, a little bit about you. So I'll just let you kind of give us the 1-2 punch of how you got to be a podcaster and where you are right now.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. I started in early morning radio. So had a radio show that was live for 2 hours in the morning. And it was a new career for me during a really weird time of my life where my husband had just gone on permanent disability. I had 5 kids at home and I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go live on the radio. But it was really fun because I got to be able to talk to lots of different people, right at the beginning of their day and sort of keep it going. And then where I podcast now at BYU Radio, they switched the format from radio to podcasting. And it was really fun because it was a creative challenge then to say, instead of doing like this live, talking to lots of different people, what would happen if you had like one conversation with one person in this podcast? Then what would you have to say? So I've been doing that for now almost 3 years, and I absolutely love it.
That makes it so relatable because it does really feel like it's just an open conversation. I listen
Yeah.
to you and it's so funny because I will laugh, and just feel like I'm sitting down with coffee with a friend. And I was telling everybody, sometimes when you're especially a stay-at-home mom, you miss that so
Yeah.
much because everybody leaves to go to school and work and they have these interactions and these friends and they sit at lunch with each other. And when you're at home, you're in your own little bubble sometimes, and that can feed negativity into your mind without intention. I know that it was so easy for me to just kind of get in the what do they call it? The doldrums of life,
Yes.
you know?
Hmm.
And so,
Oh,
goodness.
I
Well,
relate to that so much. And I relate to your story so much about like your experience. It's so fun to meet someone who's had like a life experience that's similar, where, I've been a stay-at-home mom. I've been a mom that has kind of worked part-time and then a full-time, working mom. So I've kind of had all these like different phases of my life and experiences, and so I appreciate each stage and it's sort of maybe the challenges, but also the blessings of each stage like that. But I remember being at home and thinking, oh yeah, every day is the same. I just need to talk to an adult. Wouldn't that be great? And I
Yes.
do love podcasting because I feel like it's a way of like connecting with people. It's what I craved when I was at home with a lot of little kids. And it's what I crave now as a working mom with kids that are mostly grown and launched too. Is just like that connection. And I love the sort of intimate nature with that. Like being able to talk to people like you, on my podcast and just like connect and think, oh, we wouldn't have met otherwise. But
Yeah.
like, I love knowing your story and I love being able to react with you in real time and then invite other people in on that. I think it's the best of technology.
I have to tell you, before we jumped into what we had kind of planned to talk about, I actually have met my absolute best friend ever, like soulmate sister. I've
Yeah,
never met her in person, you
I
know,
love that.
but
Yeah,
she connected with a video that I put up like years ago when I was in kind of a negative place. And I'm emotional. So, when I'm happy,
yeah.
when I'm sad, like I can't hide it. And she just felt that through the video. And
Oh,
she sent me a message. And at some point, we finally, after a few times of talking, she was like, can we just talk like on the phone? And so we FaceTimed each other and we have had the best friendship for 2.5 years now.
I love
And
that.
I'm like, there would be no way that, because she's literally across the country,
Yeah,
but she's my person. And
yeah,
I'm like, this is amazing. And I remember way back before I ever started YouTubing thinking, like, how do adults make friends? How do
yeah,
we do that these days? Because everybody moves and everybody changes. And to be honest, once your kids grow up, and then you don't have any reasons to be at ballparks and surrounded by
yeah.
people and stuff like that. And so I just found that this whole like new wave of technology, it can isolate us because we're not in person, but it also opens so many doors that we didn't have before. Because I don't know about you, I might seem confident, but to walk up to a stranger at a coffee shop and start a conversation, it's not me. I'm
It's
not going to do that.
hard. Yeah, and it's hard and we all have like limited time. That's so funny that you should bring that up because like on my podcast on the Lisa show like we did an episode about that about like how do you make friends as an adult? It just
Yeah.
feels like yeah, when your lifestyle isn't like, "Oh, I'm going to meet, my kids friends parents or I'm
Mhm.
doing this around you have your routine and things and I love that story because you resonated with somebody and connected with them
Yeah.
and you are able to keep in touch now in a different way than you could have before.
Well, no one warned us that confidence in our 30s and 40s was going to feel like trying to fold a fitted sheet. I mean, we're just kind of chaotic, it's frustrating. Somehow it never works out for me, at least. It's always a little uneven. So I am just super excited to jump in with you and just, when you think of confidence, what person or image really pops into your mind first? And has that really changed over the years?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think about my mom. My mom was a confident, or she still is, a confident woman through different stages of her life. And it looked to me like that she was sure in the decisions that she had made for herself
Mhm.
without imposing them on other people, just knowing that that was how she was going to show up in the world and it allowed her to I think better serve other people and to do the things that she wanted to do. It's like that inner quiet confidence that sort of radiates
Mhm.
and my mother Shauna Valentine is a really great example of that.
That's amazing. I'm like you. I have such high regard for my mom in spite of imperfections and struggles and all the things that I saw her go through.
Yeah,
It gives you an inner strength when you see that, they pursue, they persevere, they just keep going, and you see that they have an inner strength.
Yeah.
and I came
Yeah.
from her. So I have it too. And she's just a
Yeah.
great example of that. So
Oh, I love that.
I love that. You guys in the comments, make sure and let us know who is your like icon or person that you really reflect on confidence, because I do think that changed. Because if you asked me that question when I was 20, I probably would have said like Madonna or somebody,
Yeah,
completely
same.
different.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you think it looks a different way, but I think as you get older, you realize what true inner confidence means, and it's not performative. It's not necessarily how people show up in the world. And I think a lot of people who want you to think that they're confident inside, they
Mm.
really are not. And I think as I've gotten older, I've been able to sense the difference.
Oh, that's good. So when you're talking about that insecurity, what do you laugh about now that you were so insecure about before? Because you know what I mean? I've learned to
Yes.
let so many things go that were such a big deal before.
Right. I think most women can relate to, like, the insecurities that they have with their bodies, right?
Mm,
And that kind of confidence that needs to come. I think for me, though, a lot of it is I've always been very sort of outgoing and friendly and energetic, and that can be a lot
mm.
for a lot of people. And I realize that. So I think my big insecurity, since we're friends and I can share, I feel
Yeah,
like this is a safe
it's just
place.
you and me and, the
Yeah,
world.
I know. Is I always kind of have felt as a young girl, and even now, that like I'm too much, right? Like just too much for some people, and that sometimes I have to sort of like dial it back. That I'm too excited or too loud, or you know too, in your face or something. And I've learned that, it comes from I choose to be this way, and it comes from a good place, that I love too much, and I'm excited in too much of a way. And I just want to learn everything about everyone too much, right? Or it can seem that way, or be a lot of, be intense. But I think now at this point in my life, I don't really apologize for that anymore. I just want to, because it helps me to love life a little bit more. And I've been through some really, really hard, dark times, and where I haven't felt that way. And I've realized that it really is a gift and a blessing. I mean,
Mm,
it's a double-edged sword, right? When you feel too much, you feel too much,
yes.
on every extreme. But it's also like my gift and my offering to the world.
Oh
They
yeah.
don't have to take it, but yeah, I think that's been a big insecurity of mine.
I love that because I tell my husband that's exactly what I tell him sometimes, is that he's a lot.
Oh,
And a lot of people don't get what I mean, but he's got a lot of personality, and it's a take it or leave it kind of thing. He
yeah,
doesn't dull his shine for anyone, and I think that's such an amazing strength. But it also is such a sense of insecurity, because not everybody is going to be able to handle his full wit and his full sense of humor and things like that. And then I
yes,
I tell him all the time, I said, I think it's such like a superpower.
yeah,
And I remember for myself, I always felt dumb or just really insecure because my mother, she had a photographic memory. She was brilliant.
wow,
She's so smart. And I'm not that person. In fact, I have an ADHD brain that just kind of gives me a lot of chaos, even in spite of not having chaos. But in my mind, things are always like, roller coaster ride going on over here. And I used to really have negative self talk about that. And I've learned that's my superpower, because
yes,
when I'm in the zone, I am so in the zone that I crush whatever I'm working on. But when I'm not, I'm really not. So I've just had to learn to like accept it,
yep,
to find what workarounds around it, and
yeah,
to embrace it, because I think that we all have those things. I mean, it's amazing how very different we can be. But
yeah,
I told I think it was a year or two ago, I had a video, and a lot of times I'll have an idea of what I want to say, but I get passionate about something, I completely go off script, and that's like the best stuff. When I really get into it, I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. But otherwise, I'm stumbling over my words, like I'm having a hard time. And I remember in this video saying, like, you know, I needed to embrace my curves and my edges that were all puzzle pieces in this beautiful tapestry of life. And
Yeah.
where I have a curve or an edge, it fits. And
Yeah.
if I try to dull that, if I try to round everything out, then it doesn't fit anymore in the way
No.
we were designed to be. And it was one of those like moments where I was like, there was so much clarity in what I was trying to say. And I was like, that's a really good visual for the way I feel, because I did try to bend and conform myself to fit other people's narrative. And
Right.
now it's like, don't let your freak fly, right? I'm not saying that, but like embrace it. Like if you are truly authentically an outgoing person
Yeah.
or a confident person, don't, hide it. Just learn
Yeah.
to work around like so that everybody can appreciate it.
I
Right?
think, yeah, I absolutely agree. And I know you and I both share a deep faith, in
Mhm.
God too. And I think that recognizing that we are daughters of a God who loves us and who made us, and that we have this divinity within us,
Mhm.
that when we doubt ourselves and feel that insecurity, we can really understanding our divine nature and who we
Yeah.
are to God and how precious we are. Like honestly, that has gotten me through some really like hard times, and just thinking, no, this is who I am to him. So why would I
Mhm.
so it's so disrespectful to be able to criticize that in
Right.
myself, and to know that this is the way that it was intended, and we weren't intended to all be the same, right? Like 'cause sometimes our insecurities make us compare ourselves to each
Mhm.
other, and it's so easy to be like, oh, look at her, she's so mysterious and
Mhm.
classy, and I'm just ugh, and all
Yeah.
the things. But I think that like falling back on that and saying, no, this is okay, we're all supposed to be different, and then there's a divinity in that, and we're able to show up for each other in different ways because we're different, and help each other in our strengths and weaknesses, and there's a beauty in that, there's a connective
Yeah.
beauty in that, because we don't just live by ourselves or for ourselves, right? Like we have responsibilities around to to our family, our friends, and society at large. So
I would 100% agree. It's so funny because I had this statement, if I believe everything in the Bible is true,
yeah.
then I have to believe that he makes no mistakes.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
I can't be wrong. Like there's no part of me that was wrong.
Yeah.
If I believe that, if that's my faith, like we have to just embrace that. Like, okay, my, inner insecurity is saying, what's wrong? And then my faith says, no,
No.
you
Yeah.
can't just believe part. It's the whole thing. And he says that he made me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think about what Paul says in First Corinthians all the time about the different parts of the body and how they all have to work together for the common good for all of
Hmm.
us, and comparing, what's more important, the eye, the foot, the hand. Like we do that so often, but they
Yeah.
all have to work together for a common purpose to bless everyone. And so when I think about the divine purpose of being different, then I feel less insecure about my part in it. And I try not to think, you know, of, the hierarchy of it, but more of the, no, this is a collaborative experience that we're all having together. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
helps me not to be so self-absorbed, I think, too.
Yeah. Well, in my own little family, my husband is the brains. He is. He's very smart. He is the brains. I'm the heart. You know,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
the one that keeps everybody, connected. I, feel the feels for the whole family, all of the things.
I love
And
that.
it takes my balance to balance him out, and he has to balance me out. And it's just when you find that and you really build on it in faith and in truth, and you really start to see, yeah, what you were saying, it's a beautiful, network of all these things that he laid out. And he does use us in such different ways. In a bazillion years, I never dreamed that I would be in any way, shape, or form on camera, on the radio. You
I
know,
know.
I like to be behind the scenes. I don't like to be center of attention because I get very insecure and I get awkward and I do all these things. And I found that in some of those lower moments that I really needed to see people who were real.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
not the perfect people that I just kept seeing. Because years ago, Instagram and YouTube and all these places, there was no reality. It was all staged. It was all faked. You know, people would rent sports cars and houses to film in and all these things, and it was like, I can't relate to this is
Yeah.
not what my feelings in my life is. And so I really love that the real talk that you do, that really speaks to me, because it's honest, it's true.
Yeah.
There's a ring of truth to it. And when you feel that and you find that, it really kind of calms all the storms. Like, I've had a
Yes.
really great conversation with you, and then I can go out, and if something hits, I'm like, oh, no, not a problem, no big deal, because I've been grounded with true friendship, and true
Yes.
emotions. So thank you for doing that and letting your guard down and letting us come in with you.
Oh, thank you. That's so generous of you to say. I feel the same way of like I don't have to pretend, and that when I'm talking with you, it's real. I think that's just what we crave.
Mm,
We
yeah.
all need that. We need to know that we're real, that we matter to
Mm.
each other. Yeah.
So I'm sure that motherhood has helped you with confidence, right? But has it helped you in ways that you didn't expect?
Oh, absolutely. I think, I was such a confident mom before I had children, right? Can't we all say that?
For sure.
And then, I have 5 kids. And after my first, I remember my first was born and I was expecting my second. And I was like, okay, I got this figured out, which is
Mm.
so funny because my kid wasn't even
Right.
2 when the other one was born. And my second came and he was totally different than the first. Like,
Yeah.
my first son had like little wispy blonde hair. My second son had this tuft of dark curly hair, and that wasn't even the biggest difference in their personalities, their temperament. And then I just thought, oh wait, I don't know anything. And I can say the same thing for each one of my 5 kids as they've come and as they've grown up. And I've been parenting now for 27 years, and boy, it has taught me more about life, about myself, about them. Definitely, like, about um God, about the purposes
Mm.
of life, about everything. I mean, the motherhood is a lens that I just see the world. And it's changed my confidence in the way that, like, first of all, I think I'm just so grateful that, I mean, that God has trusted me with these unique,
Mm.
amazing individuals. And the fact that he has is not lost on me. So there's that. And then I think too, in getting to know them, it's helped me my confidence because I realized that we're not supposed to know everything right away, and that we just learn little by little as we're interacting with each other. And it's taught me that, like, that what that foundation is, especially in parenting, which is just that love and respect and mutual respect and kindness to each other and service, of just giving yourself and teaching and the good intentions that you have, but really loving them, not for what they can do or not for what they can do for you, but just unconditionally like that, and wanting to give them the best and the best start in life to go out in the world. And as my kids have gotten older, I've realized that there's confidence in that relationship too, of like, I realized that with my kids that it's a privilege if they want to have a relationship with
Mm.
me, right, as they get older. And when they do that, that gives me the confidence of knowing that I've made a lot of mistakes, but at least, there is that connection there.
Mm.
If they, choose to still talk to me and want to come over and share their life with me and all those things that I just feel like are like the best gifts of my whole
Mm.
life. So that kind of confidence, I think, I didn't know that that was going to come from my kids, and
Yeah.
from sort of working it out, and all of the messy bits of motherhood would ultimately have me stumble into that.
Oh, for sure. It's funny when you would take those like personality tests, and to try
Uh-huh.
and figure out like what you're going to do with your life, or what would be the best thing, the guidance of where you should fit. And I was always like, I don't know. What am I good at? I don't know. You're looking around like, I'm
Yeah.
just not sure. But as I went through motherhood, I was like, I made so many mistakes. I wasn't the kindest mom at times. There were times that I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that. I let anger get into me, or I made a really, you know, terrible decision in the way that I handled a situation. And it's fun looking back now. And when I'm asked, like, what are you good at? I'm like, I'm a really good mom. Am I perfect? No. But my kids know how much I love them. I've
Yeah.
apologized when I recognize that I made mistakes, and they can appreciate that. And because of that relationship, I know that they trust me with their own kids now. Like, I'm the go to raise their children when they're not around. And that's like, as a mom, like, very few
Yeah.
people would you like let them spend the night or go
Yep.
out and do different things, especially when they're young and innocent and stuff like that. So when I would go from like, I'm not good. I'm not, I'm an Aries. I'm supposed to be creative and like sing and dance and art and all these things. And I'm like, I can't draw a line. I can't carry a tune. Like, I missed the bucket on that. Like, I don't know what it was. But then I'm like, no, I got overloaded with the emotions,
Yeah.
which is good and
I
bad.
love it though.
But yeah, it's like there's nothing I want more than everybody to just get on the couch. Let's snuggle in. Let's watch
Yeah.
a movie. Let's have dogs and cats and all the things and laugh and be goofy. And the world stands still in that moment. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so present right there. And that is a confidence of just looking back on a lifetime of like never feeling like I really had it together. And I'm like, you know what? I was really good at that. I may have been a terrible wife or a terrible homemaker, but I was good at being a mom. And I was blessed by the two that I had naturally and the two that I got to like accept into my family later on, because we are an amazing family and we're blended, and
Yep.
that isn't easy sometimes, but I'm telling you, they are just as much in my heart. I thought that when my daughter had children, I really went through a season of like, number one, I'm not ready because she was having a baby before I turned 50. But
Oh,
she was old enough, she was married, like, it was all good stuff, but I wasn't physically ready to be called a grandmother yet.
yeah.
And then I started having all those doubts, like, how can I possibly love her child like I loved her? Or even like I loved my puppies, like I had all these crazy thoughts, like it's never going to happen. And then the moment that I held them, that confidence fell in, and God just put his hand on me and was like, these are yours to be in charge of. You are the
Oh,
shepherd of these little lambs, so to speak. And
yeah.
you are to go after them and care for them and love them just like Jesus does for you, just like David did, like, and it just, that confidence just was like, I felt my Superman pose come in, like, ah, ha,
Yeah.
ha, I'm here to save
Right.
these babies. Ah, and it's just amazing how he just poured in that confidence in that moment. And I was so against it until that very moment.
Wow.
And
Oh,
like,
I love hearing
I
that.
got goosebumps.
I like that. Like, oh, that like makes me just want to
Uh,
just like, cry out the cheer of motherhood of like, yes, yeah, I relate to that. I love
mm,
that. It's so beautiful and it's such a privilege to be a mom. It
it
really
is.
is. I don't take it for granted. I
I
think there were
think that,
days that I did, but and felt overwhelmed
yeah.
for sure. But like when I think about the totality of my life and the things that
Mm,
I've done or haven't done and the mistakes and the triumphs and all of it, boy, motherhood is like that's the thing. I like you said, like I can put my finger on it and said, but at least I did that. Like I
yeah.
tried so hard in that and that. Yeah.
I committed. I never quit.
Yeah.
I showed up
Yeah.
every day,
I try
you
to
know.
love the most. Try to
Yeah.
be the most in that. Yeah.
There you go. You are the most.
See?
I love that. So when you have to face something that maybe you are scared of or nervous because you've really had more trials than you deserve, with your husband and everything, like you had to face an uncertain future.
Yeah.
What what did you learn from all of that? How going through that, you didn't feel ready, I'm sure, but
No.
you know,
Yeah.
is there anything that kind of helped you in that confidence of like just doing it? Or was it really just there's no choice? I have to show up.
Well, it was kind of a combination of both, to be
Mhm.
honest. And just to give a little context for those who don't know, my husband was diagnosed with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, in 2016, which is a terminal disease with no treatment, no cure. And the average life expectancy is 2 to 5 years. And at the time of his diagnosis, we had 5 kids all living at home, from 8 to 18. And when he passed 4.5 years later, he went to kind of having like a weird twitch in his leg to not being able to move or speak. It's just a cruel, cruel motor neuron disease. And 4.5 years. So there was a lot of change. And then our kids were 12 to 22. And I did not feel prepared. I didn't even know really what was going to happen. No one could tell us what was happening, and facing that like as a couple, because here was this amazing husband and father, my best friend, all of the things. um it's one thing to be able to face that as us together, but another thing to face it as the mother, knowing that you are also caring for these children at varying levels of development. It was really, really overwhelming. And really, like you said, there was no other choice, right? Like, you just know that that mom instinct really kicks in, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
okay, if I go down, no one's going to survive this, right?
Right.
Like, no one's going to. And so there was that, like, okay, this really counts. And then honestly, there was just because I couldn't figure it out. Like, I am a let's get a system going. I can work hard. I'm not afraid of hard work, but like, you can't outwork
Mhm.
out of the unknown with a terminal disease. Or like, it's not even
Mhm.
something that you can fight. It's not like, oh, we can do chemo or surgery, or like, you can't fight it. We were
Right.
like, what are we fighting? We're just trying to accept and like live each day to the fullest. But I'll tell you, for those who've suffered with, deep depression and anxiety, and um just getting through the day sometimes is a big fight. And I was helping my children navigate that, and my husband and myself, and having my own reaction.
Mhm.
And it really became, I'd always had a faith in God, but it really became like an absolute total reliance of like, I don't know what to pray for. I don't know what to ask
Mhm.
for. I don't know how this is going to work, but I need to be able to take care of these people. So like, this
Yeah.
surrender of like, just help me, and like,
Yeah.
just help. Like, I don't even, I was always taught like, you pray with intent, right? Like, pray
Right.
to ask with faith. And I was like, I don't even know. Like, it was just this total
Mhm.
desperation. And I God is good. And there were some days where how they say, like, you just have to get through the day and get to the next
Mhm.
day and just kind of keep your head down and get to work. I mean, there were some times where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to survive this moment, like another minute. And it was just like the next minute to the next. And then there were seasons during this unknown where it just felt like the burden was lifted, and we were just our regular family, like you were talking about
Yeah.
before, just snuggling up and watching something together
Mhm.
and laughing and joking and teasing. It, like, we had lots of moments of that too. So
Yeah.
trying to keep that, and I think that's why I feel so strongly about motherhood now, and just keeping it real. Because when we were able to focus on the present and keeping it real and just
Mhm.
showing up for each other, which was just the same, just our circumstances didn't look so great, but we just didn't care. Those moments just transformed our lives. I mean, it changed my
Everything.
life, of just saying, oh, this is it. This is like, as long as we can hold on to these moments, um, this is what I wanted more than anything. And going through something like that, and now looking back, I learned so much I learned that, how much God trusts us, as parents and as people. And also, um how what faith really looks like, where you're just stepping into the unknown, right? And stepping into the
Mhm.
unknown, but trusting. And all those principles are the same, of just love your children, love your people, and just try your best, and the rest will somehow be made up.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
love
So,
that. I love
and
that.
being on the other side of it, I have confidence, because it's not a hypothetical for me anymore, right? Like,
Right. You've
like
done
I,
it.
I look back and I think, how did I do that? And I think, oh, God is good. And you just keep doing the next thing, and it will surprise you. None of us know the future. And I think we always like dread it and dread the worst. But also, we don't know the future, and it could be better than we think also.
Exactly. Fear holds us in dark places. You know,
Yes,
it does.
it
And,
does.
that's what I was saying. Like, I didn't dream that I would be doing what I'm doing now, but I got out of that place because I took a leap of faith and turned on the camera one time, you know.
And aren't you so glad you did? I'm glad you did.
It
You
was
know?
messy, it was awful. If you went back, it's terrible, but it was like, even if it does nothing else, it was like therapy, of like just letting go of something and
And you
embracing
were
an uncertain
seen.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because you allowed yourself that vulnerability, it's like you're giving permission for other people to show up and to
Mhm.
do that too imperfectly. I think you said when you said, "Oh, those first videos are so bad," or whatever. It's so interesting to me that you would say that because I don't think anybody who watches them would say that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we're our own worst critics, right? Because
Yeah.
you've seen
Yeah.
how far you can go, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes that gives you the confidence to keep going. But boy, that starting point, it just stops a lot of us in our tracks because
Mhm.
our taste of where we want to be and where we start is so big, but unless we practice, we're never going to get there.
Oh,
And
for
so if we don't
sure.
start, but boy, that starting part is so hard. And so kudos to you for just doing it.
Well, thank you. How have you used all of this stuff to keep your sense of humor? Like, do you use that, all of this to like feed into like these are funny life stories and you've
Oh
got to
yeah.
look on the fun side of it? Did you use it as a weapon to like, I'm not going to cry, I'm going to laugh? Like, how is that just your natural personality?
I think it's just my natural personality. My late husband, I mean, we really followed his lead. Here he is. He's the one that's suffering. He's the
Yeah.
one that's slowly deteriorating and dying. And he is making jokes, making
Yeah.
us laugh the whole time. I mean, the day this is so dark, but I think you'll get it. Like the day that we were saying goodbye and he would like slip into a coma right before his death, we were crying, of course. And we were laughing too. And we were
Hmm.
making sure it was everything. It
Yeah.
was everything every day. And I will say that, like, he used to not be able to communicate because he couldn't speak for the
Hmm.
last couple of years of his life. So he had this sort of Stephen Hawking setup that he would have this like dot in his glasses and he would type out things with his eyes on this pad. And most of the things that he typed out were jokes or observations. And we would always be like, we had to wait really long, but it was always worth the wait.
Hmm.
And so I use that as an example all of the time of like, it's just it can be how you see the world. And so I don't use it to avoid talking about hard or deep things because that's important.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think that we laugh as much as we should. And I
Exactly.
don't think that we give each other permission to laugh as often as we should. I think we, especially in our society today, I think we take ourselves way too seriously. I
Way.
do. And I like the idea, and I like to be around people who, if you can choose between laughing and not laughing, they're always going to choose to laugh, right? Like, and
Hmm.
not like double guess it. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of been a practice in my family. Um, I it has gotten me through some really, really hard times.
I know in my marriage, it was both of our second marriage, and laughter is so important to me, but I'm not funny. I can't tell a joke. I can't tell a story. I get way too sidetracked, and my husband is very quick-witted. My stepson, my daughter, my stepdaughter, they're all so good at all of those things. So I just sit back and I get to laugh all the time
Isn't that
because
great?
they're like, a whole sitcom going on right now.
Oh,
And
cool.
one of the things that my husband told me one time that, you don't realize until they say it to your face, but he makes up new lyrics to songs all the time. Like we'll be
Oh,
in the
cute.
car, and if he's having a good day, like that means that he's going to put something on and just totally revamp the words. And sometimes they're not necessarily the most appropriate things. Like he's got a twisted sense of humor, and I could be judgy because I don't have a twisted sense of humor. I'm very PG-13. Like we're not going there. But when he's doing these things, I just have to laugh because it's so funny. It's so witty. He made it rhyme. It's funny. And then I'll be like, "You're so bad," you know. But I'm laughing while I'm like, "You're so bad." And he told me one time, he said, "I love that you let me be goofy." And I
Yeah.
just thought, I let you? Like I didn't realize I was. But yeah, in this world, we do feel judged so
Yeah.
much. And it's so rewarding when you're like, I'm not going to take offense, even though I don't think the thing that you said is great. I know your heart wasn't to be mean. You're just trying
Right.
to make a joke,
Yeah.
or, and you have to know those limits. I'm not giving
Oh,
anyone an
absolutely.
excuse for
Yeah,
being
of course.
offensive. But yeah, you have to pick out those moments of like, that's funny.
Yeah.
It just is. Or when I like dropped a full jug of milk the second I walked into my kitchen.
Oh,
I could cry over it, or I could
yeah.
just be like, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I went to town to get milk and I dropped it before I ever got it to my refrigerator."
Right.
This is my life. This is who I am, and we really do have to find some joy in the
Yes.
everyday, in the mundane. So if you have to make a joke out of something, or if you have to appreciate that someone is like wearing the craziest outfit while they clean their house, or they
Great.
dance, or sing off key, or whatever it is, do it, because it makes the mundane not so overwhelming, you know?
I couldn't agree more. It's true, and I think it's so binding and connecting too, in marriages, in families, and friendships,
Mhm.
of having those sort of inside jokes, which are just only funny to you guys, or it's like the connecting, like memories. It's a way
Mhm.
to release like stress and blow off some steam and things like that. I
Yeah.
just think the benefits are so overwhelming that that it we should choose it more often.
Oh, yeah.
You
If you
know?
laugh with someone or you cry with someone, there's a bond.
Yes. There's a
There's just a
bond
bond.
in that. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as we are not clearly in our 20s anymore, what does confidence look like to you as you're, becoming an empty nester and, doing your own thing these days a little bit more than maybe when we had the littles around,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So when you're talking about confidence, is it styling your hair every day? Is it tackling something you've never done before?
Yeah.
Like, how do you just continue to push yourself?
Oh, that's such a good question. I like the way that you stated that. I was really unprepared for how much the passing of my husband would shake my self-confidence.
Mhm.
I thought I would feel so proud of the way that I um took care of him, but now I wasn't part of that team, right? It felt
Mhm.
like, and then
Yeah.
I had to kind of rediscover, well, who am I without him? Who am I on my own?
Mhm.
This is a different phase of life. And then about 14 months later, because of the COVID and everything shut down and the ages of my kids, within that first year, really, after his passing, where we're trying to pick up the pieces, right? My three oldest left home, to go off into the world. And then it was, oh, wait, now that they're home, they're gone, and I'm not mothering as
Mhm.
intensely now. Now, who am I, right? It
Right.
really, though, that really shook my confidence a lot. And what I found over that time, and now it's been 5 years since the passing of my husband. I only have one child left at home. She's 17. She's
Mhm.
doing her own thing. You know what that's like.
Yeah.
And I've really had to rediscover who I am. And as a woman my age, as a woman, what do I want to spend my time doing now that I have more discretionary time? Now that I'm not defined as a wife, or a mom of lots of kids, like, then who am I and
Yeah.
how do I want to show up in the world? And I wanted it to feel less sad, because I'm done being sad. I've
Yeah.
been so sad. I've covered that emotion. Like, it's so overwhelming. I wanted to not let my grief blind me from the excitement of that discovery. And one
Mm.
thing about taking care of someone who is dying, and who died young, who died in their 40s, is that I can never, like, I have this appreciation for my body and for the gift that each year is, in a way that I
Mhm.
I wouldn't have had before. Because growing up, I used to just take it as granted, like, oh, we're all going to get old and wrinkly, and oh, that's the worst. And now I'm like, oh no, getting older is a privilege that not everyone gets. regrets.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I want to, and so I've tried to embrace that wisdom of like, this isn't my first rodeo. I've learned some things.
Hmm.
I know some things. I don't worry about this and this and this anymore. I've learned that lesson. I know that I like this and this. And so I've learned that lesson. And having that confidence and having more time to do the things that I love to do, creative things, and to try new things has been really, really exciting. And I've met new people, and I have friendships of like, I have friends that I've been friends with since I was 3 years old. Like,
Oh
who
wow.
gets that? And to be able to have those kinds of relationships, because for me it's all about relationships and doing the things that you love and that light you up, that are your gift. And so um I love not having to waste my time on things that I would have wasted it on earlier, and not feeling it conflicted about that. There are people that just kind of bring you down. There
Hmm.
are things that you're just trying to do that you're not good at, that frustrate you, that you don't have to do anymore. And that feels good too, as much as like
Yeah.
running into like, oh, I have more time to paint and play the piano and make fun movies with my friends, or create
Mm.
podcasts where I get to have interesting conversations with interesting things. Like, there is still so much that I don't know, that I'm just dying to like learn and discover. And so that just feeds that confidence of, what am I going to do if I'm all alone? All that
Mhm.
fear, to put that aside and say, what am I going to do? What do I get to do?
Yeah. Look forward, get excited.
Yeah.
I know that you're on a very tight schedule, so I appreciate you being here. But before we, at any time you're welcome to leave, but
You're
there's
so
so
nice.
many good conversation questions. So I did want you to know that Alta, um, she says that she needed to hear this right now, you
Oh, I
know,
love that.
and isn't that amazing? Like, even if it's just one
Oh,
person that
totally.
appreciates this, like, this was God's timing. And that's
I
what she
love
said.
that.
She also said God's timing, tears of joy. He sends when she needs it.
Oh,
And that's exactly the whole point. That is exactly
yeah.
the whole point of all of this. But when you wake up in the morning, what is the one thing that you do put on that instantly like lifts your spirits just a little bit? And I ask that because everybody thinks I'm crazy, but making my bed has been the thing. It was like a turning point because most of my life I thought it was dumb. It took too long. We're just going to mess it up again. Like all of these little things. And then when I finally broke that cycle and I started realizing it only takes me about 3 minutes. And every single time I walk in my bedroom, I like pat myself on the back and I'm like,
Yes.
wait to go, Terry. Like I finally learned to adult in my 50s or something. So, and that is, my husband is like, there are just certain things you do every day. I open the blinds and the curtains. I I
Yes.
make my bed. You know, these are must haves because they bring the light in and it wakes me up and it fills me with joy. And even if I don't do anything else, I did that. Like it's an
Yeah.
example of I already got stuff done today, and it's so early in the morning. It's already done. So I know my daughter would say, like, maybe putting on mascara.
Oh,
She
yeah.
really likes to put on mascara. She feels like so what is your like couple of things or one thing that really is like, okay, my mom would say it's her cup of coffee.
Yeah. You are so great. I really connected with you when you were on my podcast and you said that. I was like, oh, we're gonna be friends. Like, a bonded in that. Because I do the same thing when I wake up. I make my bed, because it's the same thing. I'm like, we're starting right. And I always
Mm,
say a prayer. I always
mm,
start the day like with the attention of like, I don't know what's this day's gonna bring. Like, I've lived enough days to know, I know what I hope it'll bring, but I don't know. So help me and be with me right there.
mhm.
And then I always, this is so funny. I just started doing this in the last couple of years. I always drink a couple of glasses of water too as soon as I wake up, because um I think like, I think it's good and healthy and everything like that, because you're dehydrated from the night before or whatever. But it's also sort of meditative to me, of like, I'm filling myself up. Like, I'm ready. I
Mm,
have everything Like no matter what happens, I have everything ready for the day. It's kind of silly. And then I relate to your daughter as well. I'm kind of obsessed with lipstick. And when I put my lipstick on, it's like my war paint, right? Like I'm ready for the day. Like no matter what comes, I got my lipstick. You know, I got a couple tubes of lipstick in my purse, and then here we go. I'm ready
Yeah.
for anything. So yeah, I really love a good like morning like ritual like that. And then before I go to bed too, just to sort of frame the day. It does. I don't know, it does something for it grounds me, I think, inside.
Mhm.
So thanks
I've
for
got
asking.
it's so funny that you said that. I always have my iPad super close because I I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, got into digital planners. I used to be a paper
Oh
planner
yeah,
person, and I would
yeah,
like to plan things out. Well, I realized that I had to keep all of these like pins and stickers, and it was a lot of stuff. And so
yeah.
I converted to digital so that I have everything that I need inside my iPad, and I can take it anywhere and I
Oh,
can
that's
plan from
great.
any place. So
Hmm.
I love sitting in bed and kind of I write out like a little journal entry in there
Oh,
of
I
like
love that.
what's going on. And sometimes it's like, my husband got the approval on this, or, I got to go see the boys today and we had such a good time doing that, and
Yes.
it's not really a gratitude journal. It's like free flowing. I just let my mind kind of reflect on what all happened today. And it's been really cool because my husband will be like, I told you that. I was like, no, no, no. I'll go back to that day. I'm like, no, see, you didn't know that then. That day
Yeah.
you didn't know it, so I can,
I love it.
not that I'm trying to hold anybody accountable by it, but occasionally when I'm thinking like he didn't tell me,
Yeah.
I can
You're
go back
like,
and like,
I
no,
know. I have it written down.
I wrote that down. Like, yeah, we didn't know that yet. So I have learned that having that digital,
Yeah.
it took the roadblocks off. Like there's no excuse for not, because when I would do paper, I had to go to my office or, pull things out. And it was like, at the end of the night, I want to just brain dump and go to sleep.
Yeah.
And now I can do that. But I also have found that I will open up the next day and kind of take a peek at it and go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I've got a doctor's appointment. Or, I'm going to be home all day. I really, since everybody's going to be out, I need to like really deep clean the floor,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so it's like a reflection, which is like my own little prayer. Cause I always started off with, Father God, thank you for today. And then it just kind of brain dumps,
Yeah.
of all the little thoughts that I had. And then I look to the next day and I'm just kind of like, okay, this is what my plan is for tomorrow. So when I wake up, I'm feeling like
Yeah.
I'm already in control, even though I didn't do
Yeah,
anything that
there's an
morning.
intention.
Yeah,
Yes, I think you're really onto something like with that. Being and having an intention for the day. It doesn't mean that,
it doesn't
there's not
go
going to be
that
the
way.
unexpected and things like that, but it
Yeah.
does make it seem like everything isn't random, and that
Hmm.
you are just like moving forward with like it is your intention to do all these good things. And
Yeah.
I love that. I think
Yeah.
it points your attention to look for those things too.
Yeah. I've even added on just a side quest. I added in reminders to send birthday cards and Mother's Day cards to my planner because I'm one of
I
those
need to
people
do
like I'll
that.
think that the day of.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so
me
now it's
too.
like
And I'll
the
be
week
like, oh,
before,
mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, get the card, write it out, and drop it in the mail today,
Oh, I'm
because
gonna
I
do
had
that.
them.
That's so smart. That is so I need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just I went ahead and did it for the whole year, like, just plugged
Yeah.
in all of
So
these things so that when I
fun.
look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, because I buy them ahead of time. Like I
Yeah.
do have the intention to do that.
Yeah.
But my ADHD means that I don't realize it's today.
Right. You are setting yourself up for success though, which is really great. Again, that's so intentional. Knowing how your brain works and then setting yourself up and for success. It's so smart.
We'll see. So far I've
Yeah.
mailed 3 cards this year, so
I'm
I'm better than
impressed.
I
I'm
was.
impressed. It's more than me. So good job. I love it.
Okay. Well, I know that we really do have to wrap it up because I love that we had this conversation, but we could do this all day
I
long.
know.
But
I really could talk to you all day. It's so fun.
as we kind of shut it down, do you have a mantra or a quote that really has helped you stay grounded and stop doubting yourself when you do have those moments?
Oh yeah. Thank you for asking. especially after the death of my husband and I was in deep grief, I had this fear, and I mentioned before, like my confidence in everything. I had this deep fear that I would just like kind of be like this forever, just kind
Mm,
of struggle forever.
mm,
And as I learned more about myself and, God's plan for me and
mhm,
all the things, and as life comes happening, I have this really great quote from Rilke that says, "No feeling is final."
mm,
And I love thinking that no feeling is final. And the quote is a little bit bigger than that. It says, let basically feel everything, joy and terror, let it all come in, because no feeling is final. And I really realized that, like, with waves of grief that can knock you over, and you think that's going to be
mhm.
able, they will come less often. They will still knock you over. That's life.
Yeah.
But they'll come less often. And so when the feelings came for being joyful, for feeling gratitude and feeling it like deep, just to hold on and know that that feeling too isn't final either,
Mhm,
and to really honor it, and let it go, and let those feelings come and go, has really helped me have more confidence, not only in what I can endure, but also in what kind of life that I can live
mhm,
and make. And I think it's helped me be more confident in my relationships with my kids, and with other people, with my friends too, of knowing that, yeah, that no feeling is ever final. And that, on the flip side of that too, you don't always feel motivated to do the
mhm.
right thing. I don't always feel motivated to make my bed, but I make it anyway, as a small example. I don't always feel motivated to show up and stuff, but I do it anyway. Like, but
Mhm.
knowing the difference between those feelings has just really, really helped me to live a good life.
I love that. Thank you so very much for joining us. It was a real gift. And you guys, if you have not met Lisa before, I've linked her podcast in the description, but also she's
Thank
on
you.
YouTube too. So, like,
Yeah.
be sure to listen in. The podcast that we talked, that's coming out, I think you said next week. So,
Uh-huh.
if you want to hear our conversation, it was a little bit more about cleaning and all that fun stuff.
It's
But
still real
make sure
fun.
that you go listen and share this episode, share her podcast if you are finding something from this, because I think this is an important conversation to have, woman to woman, about real truths and the struggles that we all can feel. And especially, as we're getting into empty nesting, finding confidence and joy without other influences, we have to find it for ourselves sometimes. And
Yeah.
I think that that is a really beautiful and motivational thing that you have just said, is that allow those feelings to come in, fill yourself up with the good while it's there. When the bad comes, feel it, dive into it, let it be so that it's released, because we can hold on to things and never be filled back up with joy again if we continue to hold on to the grief, right? So,
Yeah. Oh,
mhm.
thank you so much for
Thank
having me. This
you.
has been so great. I love what you
I
do.
love it. In spite of technical difficulties.
I
And
know.
I'm just so blessed because I have them all the time.
I'm doing my best.
Look, we were not born to technology.
I am Gen X.
Yes.
I'm doing more than I ever thought.
Yeah. I learned how to put a microphone on because I kept having issues with the other microphone. So I'm
I'm
like, okay.
impressed. Yeah. That's amazing.
All right. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you
Be
so
sure you like
much.
and subscribe and go see her channel. And we will talk again next week. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.